Time. Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
The following is a presentation of Learfield. Welcome to Duck Insider.
Our whole athletic department, there's a level of expectations of success.
Throw, catch, touchdown, Oregon.
He can run and slam.
This is back out for a three. Left wing is good.
In the air to center, back at the wall. It's out of here.
Really excited that we get to rep our Ducks and hopefully come back to Eugene with some championships.
Indoor track and field national champion.
Oregon repeats as the Pac-12 champion.
And for the fourth time in the last 6 years, the Ducks are Pac-12 champions.
We have so many teams that are excelling right now, and it's really fun to be a part of.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, here's Joey Mack.
We've got a kickoff time in Salt Lake City. It's a big one for the Ducks heading to Utah, 4:30 on ABC, a big nationally televised game, and an opportunity for the Ducks to control their destiny in the Pac-12 and control their destiny maybe for the college football playoff, as the Ducks will face a top 25 team in Utah at 4:30 in Salt Lake City. Oregon can clinch the Pac-12 North and secure a spot in the Pac-12 championship game with a win over the Utes or an Oregon State loss to Arizona State. But don't worry about OSU and ASU. Just win the game. And then you're in the Pac-12 championship, and Duck fans, you can book your tickets to Vegas. And then the men's basketball team is going to be there right before. Maybe if you want to spend Thanksgiving in Vegas or the days before Thanksgiving in Vegas, then you come back for the Oregon State game, then you go right back to Vegas. I mean, I'm not telling you how to spend your vacation time, but I'm just suggesting that maybe a couple trips to Vegas could be in your future. But the Ducks got to take care of business first. They did take care of business this past weekend. Before we get to that, a programming note for you. With that kickoff time at 4:30 on ABC, that means that our pregame show for football will begin at 2:30. Well, Oregon women's basketball is in the battle for Atlantis that same Saturday. Terry Johns will be on the air at 1:30 from Nassau, Bahamas, with a pregame show for the Ducks getting ready to take on Oklahoma. A 2 o'clock tip-off there scheduled. What that means is we will have two broadcasts for you going on at the same time. For you women's basketball fans tuning in, you'll be on 95.3 The Score in the Eugene area for terrestrial radio. Our online streams with the Varsity Network, the GoDucks app, goducks.com/live audio, tune in. All of that won't be affected. You'll be able to tune in on the various stream links in the different or for the different broadcasts within your app or your web browser. However, for terrestrial radio in Eugene, instead of being on KUGN 590 AM, the women's basketball game is going to be on 95.3 The Score coming up on Saturday. Once the women's basketball broadcast wraps up, probably right around kickoff for Oregon football taking on Utah, 95.3 The Score will go back to the regular simulcast with KUGN 590 for football. So women's basketball on 95.3, then football we end up being on both stations here from our Eugene affiliates and the Cumulus Radio Group here in Eugene. Let's talk about how the Ducks did take care of business. Sean Mcpherson is here with us again, ladies and gentlemen. Nice sweatshirt choice.
Thank you.
Today,
I wore
Sean.
it because I'm going to be in Portland tomorrow, as are you, and I'm excited.
PK Invitational.
PK 85.
PK 80.
We got to make this an 85.
That's right. Yeah, the Phil Knight Invitational is tomorrow. Oregon men's basketball taking on BYU. So Sean will be up there. I've got the call 6:30 pregame show. But yeah, that's a great sweatshirt. I saw that when you walked in. I was like, well done.
Thank you.
That's a good pull. That was one of the most fun tournaments that I have ever had the opportunity to not just broadcast, but even be at.
Agreed.
Sean. So you were there.
I was there.
Okay.
I was there. I'm a Portland guy, and I have family in Gonzaga. I have brothers that went to Gonzaga. They were in that tournament. Oregon, obviously. I go to Oregon. So I had a lot of connections to that tournament, and I'm excited for tomorrow night.
So Oregon, Gonzaga, how bad do you want to see that on the hardwood?
Oh God, we saw it a couple of years ago. I was in
the Bahamas though.
Yeah, and Gonzaga got the victory.
It did. We don't need to talk about that, but I'm talking about Sean just in general. Do we want to? I would love to see it again. I would love to see it again, even after what Gonzaga has
happened in the Final Four in the championship.
Yes,
so did. Close.
North Carolina got there instead. We had some great basketball games over the weekend, by the way. Pac-12 got a big win in overtime. UCLA over Villanova. Gonzaga did look pretty good in their top 5 matchup, didn't they?
Oregon looked really good, too.
Yeah, they did.
Against SMU and Texas Southern.
Oregon's pretty good, guys. I'm telling you, Oregon men's basketball, this is going to be a fun season. So we're going to get into that, but back-to-back weeks with odd starts for Oregon football, Sean. So Jaden DeLaura hits a receiver, open up the seam. Should have been a score, but the receiver stepped out. Then DeLaura fumbled it out of the back of the end zone, leading to a touchback. So Oregon got the ball back, but the Ducks didn't get a first down after a penalty on the first play, and it's just like
some of the craziest plays in that game.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What were your takeaways from what was a wild start that ultimately Oregon ended up winning?
Well, first of all, I mean, that start was crazy. I think everyone in that building got a little bit of bad juju when they saw, I believe it was Travell Harris, not Calvin Jackson Jr., take that thing 70 yards. Thankfully for Duck fans, it was not 77 yards.
Yes.
And then the very next play, gosh, Washington State must have been so mad that they get – because I just think that's such a weird rule, Joey, don't you think? Like the touchback thing. I mean, it makes sense, but I've always – if that gets called against your team, then you hate it.
Well, it's happened to Oregon.
Yeah, it has.
I don't know what else do you do in that situation, though. Like, if you fumble it out of the end zone, it can't just be give the ball back to the offense at the 1-yard line. I mean, What do you think?
I don't know. It's just it's a rule that you just hate to be on the wrong side of.
Don't fumble the ball.
Don't fumble the ball. No, you're right. You're right. I don't really know how you change it. But my overall takeaways from this game, I thought it was one of Oregon's best performances of the entire season.
Yeah, I did too.
Because 38-24, I don't even think is indicative of the kind of success that the Ducks had in this game. And Washington State is not, I think they're like a top 4 team in the Pac-12, if you ask me. I mean, this is a team that almost handled BYU, who's beaten everyone in the Pac-12. This is a team that had won 4 straight conference games going into this one. It's a team with a ton of experience, and yet it feels like this game could have been 48-24. It could have been 38-21, something even worse than what it was. A couple of wacky plays in the second half, but overall, I mean, Joey, do you remember earlier in the season where it felt like the Ducks weren't very good in third quarters?
Yeah.
And now it feels like they've been, I mean, they come out of the locker room tied, down. I mean, 3 out of the last 4 games, they've been kind of in a close game in the locker room, and then they just blow the doors off these opponents.
Yeah, and I think that's saying something because, look, Oregon spotted Washington a few points there up in Seattle. I think it's safe to say that Oregon made some mistakes that led to some Cougar points this past weekend. You can't do that against a team like Utah. Utah's in the top 25 for a reason. I know Utah didn't look great this past weekend against Arizona, but I'll tell you what, you just can't do that kind of stuff. And so improving in categories like coming out of the locker room and really maybe putting your foot down, the Ducks are going to have to continue to do that. A couple takeaways for me. I mean, I thought McKill Wright and the special teams were much better. That was a huge focus for the Ducks leading into this game. Had to be better on special teams. McKill Wright, maybe the best he's looked on return since the 2019 season. I thought McKill Wright was excellent. And Byron Cardwell, who, by the way, was honored by the Pac-12 today. More on that in a second. Byron Cardwell, I think, really looks like an X factor for the Ducks. I think that you're getting back to not necessarily the 1-2 punch of C.J. Verdell, Travis Dye, but the Dye Cardwell 1-2 punch. I don't know. Maybe it's a haymaker and a jab instead of haymaker, but it still helps to have some depth in your backfield.
Does he remind you of any past Oregon?
He reminds
backs?
me of C.J. Verdell.
C.J. Verdell.
To be honest with you,
okay.
because that's exactly what Travis Dye said. So I'm kind of stealing from a guy who knows a lot more than I do.
Michael James,
and that's what I was going to say. I saw a lot of people comparing Byron Cardwell to Michael James. The way that he does that little stutter and then go, and don't worry, we got the game recap coming up. But those of you who are watching the show are going to see that highlight, and we got a great view of it from Steve Pohl and his crew that Scott put together. I thought that. I thought that that makes sense, to see Cardwell. And, look, he's wearing number 21. You wear number 21 in the running back room for Oregon, you have to be pretty good. Those are high. That's like wearing number 8 anywhere on offense for the Ducks. I mean, I think that's a fair comparison. So also real quick, Brad says, need to register a formal complaint for you to deliver to the AD who is in charge of the sing-along. But the song choice to Rick Roll Autzen Stadium may, in fact, be a crime against humanity. Brad, I will do that. I will make sure that the powers that be need to see that. I also thought turnovers were another key. We thought that turnovers were going to be a key in this game. Brian Addison sealed it with an interception. It was great to see his hard work pay off for the former receiver. And then, Verone McKinley, just another great great play.
He takes
by
everything.
Verone McKinley. Yeah,
He
he's a
takes
ball
everything.
hawk, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, tied for third going into this one with 4 interceptions. Now he has 5 interceptions. I haven't seen exactly where that ranks him among the best in the country, but I think it's very high. It's first, second, or third. We know that, and he moved up after being tied for third. But, yeah, I think the key takeaway, going back to what we were talking about with Byron Cardwell, is just the run game, Joey. I mean, the Ducks now in 3 straight games, 250-plus rushing yards. They've had 300-plus rushing yards in the last 2 games. They have just been ground and pound. And, I mean, Mario Cristobal today, he called Alex Mirabal the best offensive line coach in the country, and I don't know who's disputing that. I mean, the offensive line's been great despite all sorts of injuries. Ryan walks out now, doesn't matter. And C.J. Verdell got hurt, and yet it feels like the run game has been so dominant for the Ducks.
306 yards, 4 touchdowns on 47 attempts. That's 6.5 yards per carry as a team. And the defense limited Washington State just 93 rushing yards on 25 carries. I know that Washington State's not the run-the-ball kind of team. You know, they like to get the ball out quickly, especially with DeLaura at quarterback. But, you know, the defense has done some really nice things as well. And just taking a look at Anthony Brown, I think that his play at quarterback, 17 for 22, 135 yards and a touchdown. I know you go 17 for 22, 135 yards. It's like those aren't wow you numbers. But what wows me is 17 carries for 123 yards for Anthony Brown. So 135 in the air, 123 with his legs, and a touchdown on the ground, averaging 7.2 yards per carry. Byron Cardwell, 9 for 98. That's 10.9 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. And he really, I think, delivered the final blows to Washington State in that fourth quarter. Travis Dye did fumble once, rare for him. 18 carries, 88 yards, a touchdown. I mean, those numbers are impressive in the running game. And Joe Moorhead, who we're going to hear from a little later on in the show, Oregon's offensive coordinator, he said, yeah, you know, they've shown that they can win the game throwing the ball, and they can win the game running the ball. This was a win the game running the ball. It's going to be fascinating to see what the Ducks do offensively here against Utah.
Yeah, Anthony Brown, I mean this in the best way possible. He's like a second running back out there for the Ducks, and it works. I mean, and I mean that in a way that it's an asset for the Ducks. He can throw the ball too. He's proven that over the past couple of games, but what he's doing with his legs right now has been awfully impressive. I mean, between Cardwell, Dye, and Anthony Brown, you just don't know who's – all those players have different skill sets. Yeah. Dye has been scoring all over the place, 17 touchdowns now this season, and it just keeps the defense on their toes. You can go to the screen pass. You can throw it deep every once in a while. I mean, just Moorhead now has all sorts of options with the way Brown is using his physicality and making much better decisions, it seems like, in the RPO game than he was earlier this year.
Yeah, and I think that takes experience, too. You know, I think that's a good point. So after that rushing performance, Ducks are now 10th nationally in rushing, 227.4 yards per game, tied for second in the FBS with 31 rushing touchdowns. Only Army has more rushing touchdowns than the Ducks right now.
So they're the best non-triple option rushing offense.
Which is pretty impressive, how'd it sound? Jerry and Jorgie on the call.
Here they come, the big green, lightning yellow Ducks of Oregon.
Back, no pressure, now will run away from the left. Looking, now going to run and get it close. Oh, he lost the ball, but it went out of bounds. Johnson comes across the formation, give it to Dye, easily into the end zone. Oregon will strike first. Snap back to throw. DeLaura wants to go deep, and it is picked, intercepted, and a flag. Verone McKinley with his 5th interception of the year. Williams way out to the left to throw. Pressure comes wide open. Touchdown, Dye. Touchdown, Oregon. The fake fly sweep. Brown's going to cut it up himself. 10, straight arm, 5, dives. Might have, no signal yet. Touchdown! Rolling to the right now, DeLaura throws the ball out. It's intercepted. That is Addison down the sideline, and Oregon's got the ball back. Trips right, snap. And give it to Cardwell. Picks his way up the middle, and he's going to go all the way up the middle. Touchdown, Oregon. Touchdown, Byron Cardwell. Takes the snap. Give it to Cardwell going left. Waits for a block. Cuts it back. Inside the 10. Give it to me, baby. My house. I'm taking it there. Oregon's going to get the victory. 38-24. Zeros on the scoreboard clock, and Oregon is 9-1.
9-1 and controlling their own destiny into this game against Utah. 4:30 kickoff on ABC, 2:30 pregame show for us on the Oregon Sports Network. Before we hear from Mario Cristobal with his weekly press conference, Kayvon Thibodeau swept the Pac-12 Defensive Player and Defensive Lineman of the Week awards for the second time this season. And Byron Cardwell, the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week. Conference announced that this morning. KT, 6 tackles, 2 sacks, the 98 yards, 2 touchdowns for Cardwell. Oregon has now had 11 different players combined to win 15 conference weekly awards this season. That's the most in the league. The Ducks have had at least one winner in 8 of the first 11 weeks of the season. If the Ducks do not end up leading the conference in players on the all-conference teams, I will riot. Right?
There's going to be a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of them. Yeah.
There should be. We're going to get a break. When we come back, Mario Cristobal, his weekly press conference, just wrapped it up talking with the media before we got on the air today. That's next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Don't go anywhere. Duck Insider continues after these messages on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates. That's right. By replacing get-togethers with virtual play dates and video chats, they can help slow the evil spread of germs. And if your superheroes do go outside, make sure they continue their superhero wing by staying 6 feet away from others to protect everyone in America land. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studios, you're listening to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Monday Zoom press conference from Mario Cristobal. Let's hear what the head man had to say.
Well, again, thank you again for joining us. Really proud of our team for playing the way that we did and getting our 1-0 on Saturday. Really thankful to the crowd at Autzen Stadium. Oregon family brought the juice big time, made a big difference, tremendous impact in the game. And now preparing for a tremendous challenge and opportunity this coming weekend.
Mario wanted to get the status on several injured guys. Johnny went down. DJ Johnson, who didn't play. Keith Brown, Seven McGee. Jackson LeDuc was suited up, but you said that this week was more optimistic. Wanted to get an update on him. Powers Johnson, same thing, suited up, but didn't end up playing. And then Robbie Ashford didn't suit up and didn't know if that was health-related or if that stemmed from the post-game at Washington the week before.
DJ Johnson, we're still evaluating, but he looks like he's going to be good to go. Keith Brown, he tweaked something, but doesn't seem to be major. We expect him to be back. Johnny Johnson, we're evaluating, but we're hopeful. Seven McGee is fine. Jackson LeDuc is ready to play. Who was the other one? Jackson Powers Johnson, also ready to play. Both those guys were held back, but they were right on the cusp, and they were ready to play in an emergency. And that's it. And Robbie is healthy. He hurt something mildly in practice last week, but he's good to go as well.
I wonder if you could put into perspective just what it's like playing a football game against Utah. I know schematically they aren't the same as you, but stylistically, you guys both want to win in the trenches. You guys kind of both, that's where you guys feather your cap, I guess. Just what does this game mean and these matchups over the last couple of years?
A really talented football team. You know, they've recruited really well, got a lot of staff continuity. They've done what they've done for a long time and worked for a long time together. So they do a really good job. A lot of players that play with power, a lot of speed on that team, explosive players. Again, familiarity from having run the same systems for a significant amount of time. Just an excellent football team. It'll be a great challenge for us, great opportunity.
To that point, what they run the ball particularly well, and then you've also stopped the run really well, especially in recent weeks. Just talk about the challenge that they present, just trying to stop them offensively.
You know, they have they use multiple personnel groups, and they use them, some what we call broken sets. You know, they'll be in 12 and we'll break them out and get 11 sets, and they'll use 13 personnel as well. Their tight ends are excellent blockers, but it starts with the guys up front. They're very, very big physical guys, guys that do have experience. They finish their blocks. They play with really good technique. They're big in the backfield as well. They're hard to tackle. Our front seven continues to get better. Our safeties and the way we run alleys and play run support have also improved. Again, it's a great challenge. You know, you're playing against an excellent football team that has been really good for a long, long time. And a lot of it has been established at the line of scrimmage, but I think a lot gets lost in the fact that there's so much focus on that I think their quarterback, their running backs, their wide receivers, tight ends don't get enough attention. Those guys are really good players. They've made a lot of explosive plays. They've been extremely effective on the perimeter. And I should say on defense, they've been really effective on defending the perimeter as well. And their quarterback does a great job with his arm and with his feet and controlling the offense. Just does a great job running it. And I think I do believe they lead the entire Pac-12 in scoring offense. So tremendous opportunity.
Your thoughts on the matchup of their linebackers, Devin Lloyd and Sewell, are just really tremendous players, and just that matchup and importance of, I guess, matching their physicality and controlling those two guys.
Yes, sir. Well, they very instinctive players, and they get downhill in a hurry. They diagnose quickly. You can tell that they spend just tons of time in the film room. It doesn't take them long to figure what an offense is doing. They get it. And when they get there with the right type of disposition. They're knockback tacklers. Obviously very familiar with the Sewell family. Devin Lloyd's a guy that, with his length and his range, again, just an excellent football player, as well as Nephi Sewell. Both those guys, they do so much for them, not only as linebackers, but also in the blitz game, and also just as pass rushers, the way that they use Lloyd. I mean, he's just a really, really good football player.
This will be your last game on the road this season. What are your thoughts on your team's performance playing away overall throughout the season?
Well, I think we've gotten better and better really over the years, just handling the road trips like a business trip, and the ability to cut out all distractions, to pack all the things that are necessary. Really, pack your intangibles is what you need when you go on the road. I think our processes have gotten better and better. We know we're going into a tremendous college football environment where it's loud, chaotic. Their fans do a great job providing the type of atmosphere that you always look forward to in playing college football. But our guys are really looking forward to this opportunity.
Mario, this is the lowest tackle for loss allowed rate I think any offensive line you've ever coached has allowed. And yet, obviously, nobody is a projected first-round pick, maybe not even second. You've had a ton of personnel rotations. What do you attribute the level of success, particularly the past 2 weeks, but this past weekend, 2 tackles for loss, one on a sack, one on a screenplay against a team, that's the fewest tackles for loss the Wazoo had in like 5 years.
I think our players are performing at a really high level. They're working their tails off. Coach Mirabal, I'll keep saying, is the best offensive line coach in the country, and he doesn't want any of that credit. He just wants to go back to work and do more. Coach Moorhead has called some really good games, and we've done a really good job creating angles, creating leverage. We've done a good job with our footwork, hat placement, hand position, and we still got to get way better. We've improved, we've progressed, but there's a lot of meat on the bone. We still got to get better.
Coach, you've had a chance to watch the tape from last week now. Can you kind of put in perspective what you saw from Byron Cardwell and just what he's doing as a freshman? It seems like he's kind of running beyond his years at this point.
He is. His eyes are just getting better and better. So he's seeing things as the game slows down for him. He's running behind his pads too now more. So you see that physicality really starting to show on a more consistent basis. Ball security has improved. Assignment-wise, he's been on point. He was in this for some more, I would say, challenging calls, not just running the football. He performed really, really well. So he's growing up fast. We always felt confident in him that he would. He invests a lot of time. He's very serious about the game. He's very serious about his development, and he's very serious about his teammates having success. So all in all, the invested time, the extra time is really paying off for him, and we're going to need him to keep developing at that level.
Coach, you were critical of your kickoff coverage units against Washington, much better over the weekend. I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of praise some guys there, maybe what the difference was. And then also Mikhail Wright as a kickoff returner, his most explosive day maybe in a couple of years as a kickoff returner, just how that changed the game for you guys.
Well, without a doubt, his kickoff return to start the second half was a huge starter for us. I mean, really got the momentum, the energy kicked up, and we scored on that drive. So Mikhail, we feel like he's back to form. It really is. But it starts with the guys that are on that unit providing those blocks. And back to the whole coverage thing, we improved this past game significantly, and we'll need to improve again. We do feel Utah's special teams are exceptional. They're a threat on every single punt or kickoff to house one. They do a really good job themselves creating leverage and angles and creating room for those guys. And again, the returners are they're special returners. So you got to do an excellent job, make sure that you get these guys on the ground, you contain them, because they could change the game in a hurry.
Mario, in November, we always see teams that are trying to fight for bowl eligibility or seniors seeing their careers kind of come to an end and they want to win out. Winning is hard in general, but just can you put into context winning in November of how hard it is, because everything that rolls into it of guys' careers coming to an end, getting to bowl games and whatnot?
Well, it's certainly, November is special in itself, right? I mean, the whole season is, but when you get to November, football being such a game of attrition, for a lot of teams and for a lot of individuals, it's a gut check, right? It's I think a lot of times people love the idea of football, and then when you get to November, maybe they don't love it as much because of what it demands of you, and it's a lot. And I guess the best way to put it, it takes nothing less than every ounce that you have, nothing less, not one bit. And when you have people that are really dedicated and committed and love the game, like can't live without the game, Novembers can be really special because they realize they're in the fourth quarter of the season. And in the fourth quarter, you always want to finish, right? You always want to be a better finisher than those guys on the other sideline. So, yeah, it's a test. Everybody's banged up out there. Everybody's missing players. Everybody's trying to find a way, everybody. And I think you'll see everyone's their best competitive side, their most competitive DNA show out in November.
Coach, it feels like over the past couple of games, you guys have been really good coming out of halftime in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter. When earlier this season, it felt like the third quarter was maybe your guys' weakest quarter. What do you attribute the second half improvement to?
Well, offensively, we sustained drives and didn't turn the ball over. So third down has been much better, and it's been because I wouldn't say all the time, but there's been more third and manageables. On defense, it started with first down, putting teams in more difficult second and third down situations, getting off the field. And we've been able to really crank up our third down performances when we do that, which is right. That's the natural part of the game. So starting fast is something that's really important for everybody. It has improved for us and needed to improve for us because of the things that you had just mentioned. But getting in there at halftime and making the right adjustments, giving our players the best chance, and them taking that information and coming out with great energy in the second half has been the key. They've done a really good job with it, and we look forward to continue that improvement.
I'm sure nothing KT does surprises you guys anymore, but when you look back at the film, given the caliber of competition he just played, and not just the individual matchups, but sticking with plays, Mario, and sticking with the runs after they got past him from the backside and all those things that he did this past weekend, how impressive was what he did, and how much will you need it again against probably the best offensive line you guys are going to face this season?
We'll need it all the way through, every single game in every way. The best part about KT is that he just keeps coming. No matter what, he just keeps coming. Doesn't want to come out of the game, doesn't need to come out of the game. He wants more, and that's infectious. That permeates throughout the sideline, the locker room, and everything else. Just giving every ounce that you got. So, you guys, one of a kind.
You mentioned their tight ends, Mario. Your thoughts on how Jamal has done in that role, matching up with those guys, and Noah as well. I know this past week, obviously, they didn't have tight ends, but when you have played multiple tight ends, it's largely fallen on those two guys. Your thoughts on those two guys and their coverage of tight ends this season?
They've done a good job, and this poses a different kind of challenge with the way, again, those broken sets, those guys are all over the place. They're attached, detached, bunch sets, 2x2, 3x1, they move them, they shift them, they go in motion. So discipline eyes, aligning properly, assignment football, all that comes into play. And then you've got to play with power and technique and making sure that all the while that you're playing with great intensity and finishing, because you've got, again, an excellent offensive operation that uses those guys and their abilities very well.
Does the potential for a rematch in a couple of weeks matter at all from a planning standpoint whatsoever, Mario? Or does that just, you worry about that later?
There's no other focus except this week's game for us.
There you have it, Mario Cristobal discussing last week's victory over Washington State, also previewing the upcoming huge matchup against Utah. When we come back from this break, we are going to hear from Joe Moorhead, the offensive coordinator, doing the same thing that Mario Cristobal just discussed. That's next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear Exit Strategy. No matter which Toyota you choose, there's an exit from the ordinary to match. See you soon, Toyota. Visit your local Toyota dealer or Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places.
What's with Mountain Dew? Mountain Dew is like a zip line of incredible flavor directly into your brain. Mountain Dew is like getting punched in the mouth with pure neon refreshment that creates a neural explosion, sending flavor shards of electric brain pulses into your very core of being. Okay, maybe that's a little over the top, but you get the idea. The fact is, the mind-bending challenge of describing the taste of Mountain Dew is way harder than just experiencing it. That, of course, is easy. Just grab an ice cold Dew, crack it open, and toss them back. Mountain Dew. Do the Dew.
Dear Exit Strategy. No matter which Toyota you choose, there's an exit from the ordinary to match. See you soon, Toyota. Visit your local Toyota dealer or Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places.
Duck Insider continues after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Hey, so what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joy Mack here with you inside the Country Financial Studio. Also, Sean Mcpherson joining us. Said we're going to hear from Coach Moorhead, but before you know it, we're up against the clock, and Graeme Abel is about to come into the studio. So we're going to talk with him in just a second. First, though, your Cafe Yum 2-minute drill. A couple other things to tell you about, and we'll hear from Coach Moorhead later on. Really nice win for women's basketball. Got to see Tahina Pow back in action, though limited. Coach said that it was precautionary. We'll see on Niara Sabali. The Ducks getting ready to travel to the Bahamas. A few extra days to get healthy, but back-to-back games start the season that women's basketball has held an opponent under 40 points.
They've been completely dominant so far this year, and Tahina Pow is back so much quicker than I thought she would be back. That's a really good sign, and also in place of some other players that are currently down. Filipina Che was excellent this past couple of games, and then last night Kylie Watson, also really good for the Ducks.
Ducks up to number 9 in the latest AP poll before taking on Oklahoma coming up on Saturday. Men's basketball, a really nice win on Friday for the Ducks, 86-63 the final over SMU. Tell you what, SMU is a really good team. Maybe going to be in the NCAA tournament, and the Ducks just blitzed them from the beginning and then never looked back. An impressive performance all the way around.
I'm blown away by this team. They're really good. I mean, and they're only going to get better as some other guys develop. I mean, right now they're 7 deep. Dane Altman said that himself, and I think if they can become 8 deep, 9 deep, and some guys develop, then they're going to be really good.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Volleyball, I'm really impressed by their win over UCLA as well. After coming back to beat USC in 5 on Friday, the Ducks swept UCLA in a top 20 meeting at Matthew Knight Arena. The Ducks are looking really, really good for Oregon volleyball right now. Matt Ulmer is going to be on the show tomorrow.
Yeah, they're clicking right now. They're clicking. The turnaround from just a couple weeks ago when it felt like they were not playing very well. Now they're playing extremely well, and they're making a bid to potentially host.
Yeah, I think they are probably in the contention to host right now. Men's tennis, the doubles team, Joshua Charlton and Jasper Clove-Nielsen won the doubles title at the Duck Invitational on Sunday. Charlton also won the singles draw. That'll be the end of the Duck season, at least this time of year. They'll be back in action in January. Same for women's tennis, as Maya Pecci swept her way to a victory in the title match of her singles draw Sunday to close out play at the San Diego State Fall Classic. Ducks back in action in January for both men's and women's tennis. That's your Cafe Yum 2-minute drill. Cafe Yum restaurants throughout Oregon and Washington. Menus always available, cafeyum.com. All right. Sean, you're coming back in a little while. We're going to hear from Joe Moorhead next. We're going to wrap up the season with Oregon soccer head coach Graeme Abel. Stick with us on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Dear past, present, and future football watchers, football is back! So consider this your official excuse for always putting football watching first, courtesy of Pepsi. That haircut appointment? Seeing the in-laws for the first time in ages?
It's been so long!
Nope, sorry Susan, not if it's on Sunday. Long story short, after the year we've all had, we think you could use a little football watching. So crack open a Pepsi and cheer your football watching face off. With love, Pepsi. Made for football watching. That's what I like.
Duck Insider, your home for the latest news on Oregon athletics on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home. Wow. Where were you, Jill? We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack with you in the Country Financial Studio. Graeme Abel's here. Regular slot on a Monday. Coach, hey, thanks for taking the time. Oregon soccer head coach. Look, I wish that we were sitting here previewing some postseason matchups. Unfortunately, didn't go your guys' way on the selection show last week, but now you're getting ready for the next season, huh?
Yeah, get start preparing for 2022.
What was the reaction like? I mean, I know that's an unfortunate question that I got to ask you, but you're sitting there hoping you guys were in, put together a pretty good resume, and I got to – were you guys like number 65? Like, was that kind of what you thought at the end of it?
Probably in the overall kind of scheme of things. I mean, you probably look at how many teams went out of the West. Not many teams went out of the West. You know, to be quite honest with you, you lose 4 games all season and you don't go. So that was kind of the disheartening thing. But we look back at some of the games and we left a few wins on the table for sure. So it's learning for us, but you know, at some point, you know, you've got to start to win the game. So disappointing. You know, I'm gutted for our senior kids because that's why they came back to end this thing in the right way. And you know, the thing we said to them was, you've dragged this program forward incredibly in my time in particular, in terms of what we've done in such a short space of time. So it's up to the next group now to take it the next step.
How about those seniors, though? You and I talked a couple times ago that you were on about just how much you owe them for what they've been able to do to help you build this program.
Yeah, listen, they jumped on board right from the very start, and they made significant strides they're awesome people to start with, but they made significant strides as players in terms of their improvement on and off the field. And you know, I can't say enough about them. I'd love to get them back for another year. I'm not sure Jody can figure that piece out, but awesome kids. We're gonna miss them. And I told them, you know, when we get this thing over to the postseason, then I want them back and around it.
You had a number of players that were on the All Pac-12 team, program record. Number of players that were on the academic All-District team, program record. A lot of program records. Building in the right direction, right?
Without a doubt. I mean, I'm sure he won't care me, won't mind me sharing this. But when I took the job, one of the things Rob said was, you know, he wanted this built for the long term and not just a short-term fix. And so, I feel as though, you know, any game we play now, we're definitely competitive. You know, we can win any game. It's now those fine margins, and there were probably too many of those games this season where the fine margin went against us. You know, again, we're talking 4 losses here, but they matter in our conference. You know, but we've gotten it to a place now, top half of the Pac-12, which is solid in terms of moving us in the right direction. We've now got to start to win those bigger games.
You know, this is like the sports movie question, right?
Yeah.
Where it's you're so close, and then you look back, hopefully a year later, and you're working harder in the weight room, you're working harder in training, you're working harder in film sessions because you don't want that feeling of being left out at the end. Is that true? Like, is that really the vibe that the team has now in the off season?
I think we now have a full sense of like I said, what those fine margins are. Our kids are working incredibly hard in terms of the pieces that are needed. You know, we had 1 weekend this year, you know, the Washington State weekend, which I think the Washington State game just knocked the wind out of our sails, getting beat that late, and you saw kind of the hangover with regards to the Washington game. There was 1 weekend where we weren't on point this year, and it's now learning that you have to be on point for every single weekend if you're going to be a competitor within our conference and obviously nationally as well.
Graeme Abel, Oregon soccer head coach, joining us. So what's the off-season plan? What's your focus now over the last few days? What are you working on here heading toward the end of the fall term? And then before you know it, spring is here.
Well, for our kids, it's recovery. You know, we've played 36 games in 35 games in a spell of 36 if you include the exhibition in the spell of, what is it, 10 months, 11 months?
Yeah.
Something like that. So you're looking at a professional season, what we've just played essentially.
Boy, isn't it less months than that?
I'm trying to think.
I mean, it's November.
Yeah.
You guys didn't start playing last year till what, March? April?
February, I think.
It was February, late February. So yeah, you got 10 months. Wow,
so
that's crazy.
Our kids they can't sustain doing what they've done. So we've essentially shut them down. We'll do some performance testing this week just to get Ben and Jordan the baseline and what they need moving forward. Then we'll shut them down through January. They need the break. They need to finish up finals. They need to make sure academically they take care of that piece. Rach Thomas and myself have been out recruiting already. We're in San Diego this past weekend, and we'll continue kind of starting looking at our 23-24 class. So yeah, to keep moving forward.
Recruiting never stops.
Never stops. And, you know, again, because of what our senior class done and whatever else has done, it's opened the door for a different type of recruit now. So we've got to make sure that we get the right people in the program still.
Sure. I mean, you know, yeah, you always want the right person, not just the highly rated, you know.
Without a doubt.
I hear a lot of coaches talking about that. So break down the roster for us. I mean, you got a lot of great pieces coming back, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, we get essentially the spine of the team back, you know, which is the piece that's important. You know, we'll have Chai back, we'll have Zoe back. Kes Elmore will bring, you know, like I said, she was good this year. I think she'll be even better next year after she's been with us. You know, and then we've got 4 that have signed already, and Ajane, Livy, Kristen, and Anna. Got to watch a couple of those guys play this weekend. You know, Anna was named into the ECNL All-Star weekend, so All-Star game, so that's great. Ajane, she's going to be, you know, she's going to be fun to watch. 6 foot of her is going to be great to watch for us and give us some more size and presence. So really excited about those guys coming in. With a few more that we'll get through the door here over the next few months as well. So we are. You know, we get a lot of good pieces back. So once we get into the spring, it's now okay. You know, we didn't do enough in terms of scoring enough goals this year. 67, 68 chances we created in the Pac-12 season alone. I think we scored 11, 12 goals. So we need to put more of them away. So we'll start to look at that in the spring, start to get a good competitive schedule in place, and then develop some of our other players as well to make sure, you know, we've got some, you know, talented kids, Alice, you know, Maddie Goldberg, you know, she obviously got injured this year, but we have another goalkeeper that's excellent. Megan Rucker, you know what I mean? There's a spot there at the 2 with Mia Palmer graduating. So there's a lot of people who, you know, have got a lot of development to do, and we'll make sure we get that done to help us for the fall. One
individual that I think has garnered a lot of praise for good reason on the all-district academic team, Pac-12 first-teamer is Leah Freeman. Just how valuable is it to have somebody like that at that position coming back for you too?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, anytime you've got a good goalkeeper, it helps you. It helps you in terms of staying competitive in games. They get 1 or 2 big moments in a game in terms of making a big save. So, you know, we are so fortunate that we've got both Leah and Maddie. You know, we've got 2 really good two goalkeepers that start at any other Pac-12 team across our conference. So, really look at both of them return. So they'll get a great spring ahead of them. And we'll get more work done there.
Graeme Abel, Oregon soccer head coach. Well, I got to tell you, thanks for always taking the time to chat with us every Monday. It's been one of my favorite things to do every week, and here's to doing it again come spring a little bit. You know, we'll hear about some of the new faces of the spring season, and then I can't wait for year 3 for you, and it seems like it's only like, you know, half a year so far.
Year 3 already, no word.
Yeah, boy, when I say that, what do you think of?
Need success.
All right, I'll take it. You know, hey, but for Graeme though, I mean, I got to tell you, you know, as a coach, you couldn't have thought that it would be that this would be the first 2 years, right? I mean, the world looks so much different than it does when you took the job.
It does, but I say this all the time. We're having a blast. I mean, it's when I got out of college athletics in 14, 15, it was, you know, the recruiting was just crazy, and you know, you didn't get to spend time with your student athletes. You didn't get to coach them as much because you were always on the road recruiting because you were recruiting 5 different classes at once. But we're having an absolute blast here, and like I said, we've put things in place that are going to make sure that, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road, we're still having success, and we have a program that Oregon can be proud of.
Oregon soccer head coach Graeme Abel. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
Appreciate the time. Best of luck recruiting. Best of luck with recovery. Yeah. And that's important for the coaches too. Right?
Hey, we're having fun. Come on. We're not working. We're coaching. It's not working. So.
All right. Graeme Abel, Oregon soccer head coach, back at it before you know it in the spring season and then next season. And coming up, we're going to talk a little more football here from offensive coordinator Joe Moorhead on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joy Mack in the Coach Financial Studio. Great stuff hearing from Coach Graeme Abel. Really glad that we could wrap up the season a little bit with him. If you missed it, it'll be on the Oregon Soccer social media channels here a little later on. We will get to all of Coach Moorhead's press conference from today. We'll save the rest of it for you tomorrow. But let's hear a little bit from the Oregon offensive coordinator, some of his thoughts as we approach a big top 25 matchup for the Ducks in Salt Lake City.
Hey, Coach, 250-plus rushing yards in each of the last 3 weeks. What specifically have you seen clicking out of your rushing game over the course of the season?
No, I think as a staff, we've done a pretty good job putting a game plan together to attack what we're seeing defensively. We've got a very talented offensive line that plays physically and establishes a line of scrimmage. Excellent backs who run well between the tackles. And when we get them on the perimeter, and unselfish tight ends and receivers who understand their role when we hand the ball off. So I'd say those were all critical components to our success the past 3 games and throughout the season.
Joe, you touch on the O-line there. This is the fewest tackles for loss an O-line has allowed in your FBS career, at least. I can't pull up Fordham stats or Georgetown stats.
You should. You're good.
Yeah, on that regard. But what do you attribute that to? Because certainly running the ball helps a lot. Triple option teams usually run very well with tackles for loss, but you're obviously not one of those. But what do you attribute the lack of tackles for loss to, and how critical would that be against the most disruptive defense you're going to face this season on Saturday?
Yeah, I think all the things I mentioned for the prior question. I think we're handing the ball off against good numbers in the box. The quarterback's making good decisions when it comes to our RPO and RSO game, and we get the ball on the perimeter. And I think we've been blocking movement and pressure very well. And that's when a lot of negative yardage plays occur, when the line is stunting or you get an unblocked player off the edge. So I think schematically and from a decision-making standpoint and blocking-wise, we've done a good job accounting for those as well.
Hey, Coach, I hope you're doing well, and thanks for your time. Utah
Appreciate
has an impressive defensive line and ranks among the best in the nation, not only in sacks, but particularly in tackles for loss. How are you preparing to face such a dominant defensive line, and what would you say makes them so special?
Yeah, it's going to be an incredible challenge. They play, primarily a 4-down front. They have great size inside. Their ends are very athletic and active. And I think both of the inside linebackers do a really good job playing downhill, but also, chasing balls down when they get to the sideline, and, play a fair amount of one-high safety. So they're getting the forced defenders in the box. So all those things will be a challenge, handling the great front six. They're very, very aggressive and have a great scheme. And then we got to account for the unblocked defenders at the second level.
Coach, after watching the tape, I'm wondering if you can put into context what you've seen from Byron Cardwell over the past few weeks. And does it surprise you at all to see a freshman running with such patience?
Yeah, Coach Master's done a great job with that room and with the two young guys. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's been at 10 yards a carry or over 10 yards a carry for the Colorado game and in this past game against Washington State. But a lot of things go into that. Certainly his talent, the ability to remain patient, read his blocks, and then when the opportunity presents itself, bursting through the hole and then being able to separate. I think you've seen the ability to make people miss in space. I think a couple of those runs on the last drive, he was able to shake some guys and create some things. And, I think Coach Master does a great job, making sure he understands the blocking scheme and the reads and things like that. So incredible natural talent. He's done a great job within the scheme, and I think he's being coached incredibly well.
I want to ask you, you don't have to get into details, but from a health perspective, how close are you to normal? And have you been able to resume your responsibilities fully that you had prior to the health issue you had? And then just life in the box for you, is that something you could foresee doing for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think I'm improving on a daily basis. I came back to work well before the doctors recommended that I step foot back in the office. But, that was a, personal decision, and I think it was a good one. The only thing that really, is being down on the field as opposed to being in the box. So right now I'm seeing it well up there. It's a very sterile and stoic environment, kind of devoid of emotion, which is, juxtaposed with being down the field. It's the exact opposite. But I don't want to take my butt down there, and I'm not real fast, fleet of foot. I was one of those slow pocket quarterbacks. So if I get caught behind the ball, I'm getting run over, and then it's another trip back to the ER. So for right now, I think I'm gonna stay up a lot safer up there.
AB in his last 4 games is 3 touchdowns rushing. He's averaging 7 yards a carry. Do you feel like his improved element there is maybe helping the run game as a whole be able to put up what you've done the last 3 or 4 games and helping Travis just because there's another, I guess, guy they have to account for that's putting up good numbers on the ground?
I would definitely agree with that. The past 3 games, I think throughout the course of this season and historically in the context of this offense, anytime that you can add a number to the run game that the defense has to defend, creates a bevy of issues, relative to gap fits and coverages you can play and things along those lines. But I think that's probably a little bit of an underlooked and undervalued part of AB's game right now is a run game. I think he's over 500 yards rushing, get closed in on 10 touchdowns. But what we ask the quarterback to do from a decision-making standpoint in the run game, it's not like being under center and 22 personnel and reversing out and handing off, low power 25 times a game. We challenge them with pre-snap looks and post-snap recognition and, the things that we do, aside from the guys up front and the guys running the ball, a part of that is attributable to the quarterback's decision-making and then running the ball when he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, and he's been so good running the ball when he has those opportunities, right? Over 100 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing. This past week for Anthony Brown, he has been next level good. We're going to hear the rest of Joe Moorhead's press conference coming up tomorrow on Duck Insider. Also tomorrow on Duck Insider, Lisa Peterson, Deputy Athletic Director, will join us, talk a little bit about soccer, volleyball, women's basketball season is upon us. Lisa will join us to talk about a lot of different things. Hear the rest of Joe Moorhead and then Matt Ulmer. Following the top 20 sweep of UCLA, the Oregon volleyball head coach will join us tomorrow on more Oregon-Utah preview. See you then.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit